Hi guys, so I want to show you this interview that took place on BBC Newsnight. Now, this man was interviewed, he's presented as an expert, he represents a think tank, and they're talking about this extra £20 that's an uplift for universal credit. Now, I'm going to show you the research that I conducted into him and the entity that he represents. But when he started speaking in the interview, it raised a few red flags for me, and that's what started the research. So let's hear what he had to say.
Well, I think Ronald Reagan's about to be proven right, that there is nothing so permanent in life as a temporary government programme. This was a temporary step in order to try and ensure that people got through this pandemic. I think there is an argument to be had about whether or not you are wanting to extend that a bit in March. We might argue that the crisis is going to end in, I don't know, April, May, June, July. That's not a hill I'd like to die on. But over the medium term, I think your correspondent was right on this, Rishi Sunak doesn't need to make any urgent decisions in the March budget about this. We're not going to balance the books this year or next year. But over a 4 or 5 year time horizon, we have to be realistic about the amount that government is spending. We are living beyond our means in the good times and living way beyond our means in the bad times.
So this man represents a think tank that is about reducing, for example, corporation tax. They want to reduce taxes on businesses. They want to allow businesses to operate more, quote unquote, freely. Now, what's happening at the moment, of course, is the Exchequer is paying out this money to help individuals get over financial issues during the pandemic.
That isn't a sustainable position at all.
Sorry to interrupt you, but just to clarify on the extension to the uplift, you are not in favour of pulling the feet from people. You would like to see this carried on. I mean, there's talk of June and July. When the vaccine...
Yeah, something like that. I mean, that seems to me reasonable. March the 31st is an arbitrary date as much as any other. That just happens to be the end of the fiscal year. What I'm more adamant about was that this was temporary support for the crisis period. If the crisis period ends in June and July, then the temporary uplift ends in June and July.
So he's saying, look, this temporary measure, this measure that's been added to help people on universal credit, it's temporary. It should end whenever. Okay, he's not that concerned of when it should end, but it should end. Now, I'm completely against this because I believe that people should be supported. Now, whether there's a pandemic or not, people should be supported. He represents a different way of thinking. Now, when he started speaking, two things raised alarm bells with me. First was he mentioned Ronald Reagan. And second, he talked about how this needs to be paid for. I'm always interested in people who view money that's given to people as a cost, but money that's given to businesses, banks, financial institutions as an investment. People are a cost, businesses are an investment. And I actually think sometimes it's the opposite. Now, this guy here, his name is Mark Littlewood. So let's have a look at some tweets by Mark Littlewood. He's the Director General of IEA London, this think tank. And I'm just reading the very first tweet. It's pinned on his Twitter account. It says, "Increasingly, the UK is a socialist state. There is no clear end to the deletion of the freedoms of ordinary men and women, and the state apparently has the scientific wisdom to organise all citizens' affairs, as well as a bottomless pit of money to do so, unlikely to end well." And this is from the 20th of November last year. So you're getting a bit of an idea of his way of thinking. Now, it is a bit disappointing that the BBC didn't actually clarify this, didn't actually explain this guy's ideology. But let's continue. So he's part of this IEA organization. They have a Twitter account, okay, and I'm going to read and look at some of the comments that they have shared. It is interesting if you look on the right here. I don't know if you can see it. It says, you might like The Spectator. Now, The Spectator is a pro-Tory, conservative-leaning newspaper. So it is interesting that this organization, which claims to be independent, is leaning towards the recommendation was The Spectator, not The Guardian, not the Financial Times or something like that, but The Spectator. But okay, let's continue. Here are some of the tweets. You can view the tweets yourself. I just went down and had a look at some of the tweets. This is one tweet. It says here, this lady Emma Neville will be joining Mark Dolan of Talk Radio to discuss the case for NHS reform. Now, NHS reform is not NHS reform. NHS reform is privatization. These people are about the privatization of the NHS. But let's continue. This is another tweet by theirs. Okay, at this stage you go, okay, these people are right wing. So it says here, socialism happens, socialist system collapses, but that wasn't real socialism. Some things never change. These people are probably either conservatives or libertarians. I wish the BBC would actually point that out in the interview. Now, I looked at their website to see who funds this organization, and they are transparent. They give out information. They don't say who. They don't show the donors here, but they do say that 37% is by private individuals, entrepreneurs, and small businesses, small family businesses. 28% is foundations and trusts. 17% income from events, competitions, conferences. And then we have book sales and other large businesses. Do they accept money from overseas? Yes, and they're registered in the United States, which is interesting. Okay, let's move on. We have this. This is one of the writers for this, or commentators. She's actually a director of communications for this organization as well. I wanted to show you an article that she wrote for a newspaper where she's talking about food poverty, and she attacks the entire idea of the state helping people. Let me see where it was. She said here, Marcus Rashford's Child Food Poverty Task Force has at its core an admirable goal, with the Joseph Rowntree Foundation this week flagging the worsening financial position of many poorer people, not to mention the grim state of the UK economy. We can expect to hear much more about food poverty, fuel poverty, energy poverty, and transport poverty. But what this truly indicates is a welfare system that ought to be fixed at source. Now, I'm an advocate for UBI. I don't think she's an advocate for UBI. I think she's talking here about changing the welfare system. Now, I went to the link here, and it says here, universal credit, good idea, badly implemented. That's actually wrong. It's a bad idea, badly implemented, not a good idea. And now I want to show you, I'll let you listen to just a few seconds of this podcast. And this immediately raised alarm bells for me.
Universal credit has been dubbed one of the most radical changes to the British welfare system since the Beveridge Report, which proposed widespread reforms to the social welfare system to tackle what Beveridge identified as 5 giant evils in society.
Okay, it stopped for some reason. Okay, so I was listening to this voice and I said, I know that voice. Who is that guy? I've heard his voice before. And if I look down here, you see here the IEA's digital manager is a guy called Darren Grimes. And you're probably wondering, Darren Grimes, maybe you've heard that name before as well. Darren Grimes is, well, he's a Brexiteer. What other way can I put this? I'll read it here. Electoral Commission case in 2018. Grimes was fined £20,000 by Electoral Commission after it determined that there was evidence that Believe had spent more than £675,000 on the with the Canadian political agency, a consultancy firm Aggregate IQ, in coordination with the official Brexit campaign organisation Vote Leave, in distribution targeted social media advertisements. The Commission argued that these actions violated electoral spending rules and that Grimes and Vote Leave official David Allen Halsell had made false declarations regarding the spending. Vote Leave's fine was upheld on appeal, but Grimes was overturned. Subsequently, in May 2020, the Metropolitan Police ended its investigation into Grimes and Halsell. So, we're getting a bit of a picture of what this organization is about. It's a right-wing, or at least a libertarian organization, and unfortunately the BBC did not make this clear in their interview. Now, if I'm able to find this information out in about 20 minutes, the BBC can do the same. But I fear that the BBC would prefer to keep these things off the table in order to remain neutral. But this is not remaining neutral. You need to provide this information to the public. Otherwise, people will think he's a professor or he's an expert on this. He's an ideologue. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?